you. You may all be seated. First of all, good afternoon, and thank you all so very much for coming, and a special thanks to our four clergy here, which are going to play a vital part of this ceremony. My name is Mark Tofano, and I'm the chaplain here at the American Legion Post 235. And I want to talk about the incredible sacrifice that four men gave 77 years ago, where they willingly gave their lives. They're known as the FOUR Chaplains, and they were brought together at a particular place and a particular time to be an example of self-sacrifice for all of us. The American Legion dedicates itself every year to remembering these four men. We never will forget them. So at this point in time, at this weekend, hundreds of American Legion posts throughout the country, churches, synagogues, cathedrals, are all performing services in memory of these four men. There's been songs written about them. There's been documentaries, a number of portrayals. The stained glass, for those of you that may not have ever seen it, they hang in the National Cathedral at West Point and at countless other institutions all around the country. There's also, believe it or not, there was a stamp, and this kind of tells you when that stamp was made. It was only 3 cents at that point. But that's how the national consciousness was placed on these men at that point in time. There's also the Purple Heart and the Distinguished Service Cross were also awarded to these gentlemen posthumously. But also, this very last medal was a very special medal made for the four chaplains, the Four Chaplains Medal. They, for some reason, were not eligible for the Medal of Honor. So this one medal was made just for them. It's only been minted once, and it was only for that occasion. So let's talk about the four men that instilled this kind of respect and admiration. First we have George Fox. And George Fox is being represented by Pastor Wilson. He's the minister of the First United Methodist Church. And we call him Chuck, lovingly. Chuck has been a real friend of veterans for so many years, and has been at just about every one of our services and ceremonies, and we want to really thank you for that participation. Then we have Clark Poling, and Clark is being represented by Pastor Larry Whitley, who's the pastor of Mount Moriah Missionary Baptist Church, which is a fabulous church, by the way. Something that I did not know until a couple of days ago was that Pastor Whitley was actually awarded the Four Chaplains Award 20 years ago. And at some point, so at some point in time, he has brought with him his Four Chaplains Award certificate, and I'd love every one of you to take a look at it. And then we have Father John Washington. He was a Catholic priest, and we're being represented by Father Richard. He's with the Diocese of Charlotte. And he was educated right here in Belmont Abbey College. And actually, before he was ordained a minister, I'm sorry?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about Washington.
Well, since you were too, right? Yeah, I mean, you have so much in common. And actually, before he was ordained a priest, he served in the U.S. Army. And then he was ordained in 2009. Is that correct? And first of all, I want to thank you so much for your service, and thank you for being here tonight. And then we have also Rabbi Alexander Goode. And Alexander Goode is being, he was a Reform rabbi, and he is being represented by Rabbi Chaplain. And Rabbi Chaplain is with the Temple Bethel. And here is an enormous link between Rabbi Chaplain and Rabbi Goode. Rabbi Chaplain was also an Army chaplain, and he and Rabbi Goode went to the same rabbinate. Okay, so it's really a wonderful link. Their backgrounds and denominations and where they were born and all that were totally different, but history will remember these four men together. I want to go into a little bit more detail, and the reason it's so important, I want to know more about these people, and also the incredible coincidence. No, I'll take that back. Coincidence is not a word in my vocabulary. The incredible divine spirit that brought these people together. Now, you have to understand, they're born totally in different places at different times, and their paths crossed twice. And for instance, George Fox, he was born in Pennsylvania in 1900. He lied about his age at the age of 17, and he joined World War I. Upon discharge, he returned home, went to the Goode Bible Institute, and eventually was ordained a minister after going through the Boston University School of Theology. He volunteered to be a chaplain in 1942, and that's where he attended the Army Chaplain School at Harvard, and it's where they all met each other at this one moment in time. After that, he went to Camp Davis, so he totally left. And then we have Clark Poling, and he was born in Columbus, Ohio, and his father was a chaplain in World War I. And he was originally evangelical, and he turned to Baptist. And fortunately, because we have a Baptist minister representing he attended the Yale University Divinity School, and he graduated in '36. He joined the Army at the start of World War II, and he also went to the Chaplain's Harvard School. And then he left and went to Mississippi. So then we come to John Washington. He was born in Newark, New Jersey in 1908, and he prepared himself for the Catholic priesthood. He completed his studies in 1931, and he was ordained a minister or a priest in 1935. He applied to be a chaplain at the attack of Pearl Harbor, and he attended also the chaplain school at Harvard, and that's where he met them as well. And then after that, he went to Fort Meade in Maryland. So they just met briefly and then left. Rabbi Goode, he was born in Brooklyn, and he's the son of Rabbi Hyman Goode, which I was talking with Rabbi Chaplain before, and it most likely is Polish. And there's also a link there because Rabbi Chaplain is from Polish heritage as well. And he went to Hebrew Union College and got his doctorate from Johns Hopkins. He was a Navy chaplain and eventually became an Army chaplain. And he also attended the chaplain school at Harvard. And then he left, and actually left here for a fire squadron right here in North Carolina. So now, late in '42, all four chaplains will be transferred to Camp Miles Standish in Massachusetts, and that's where they would be reunited. And this is where the story starts, because that was the spot where everything started to happen. So the stage was set, and what follows is that these four men were brought together at a particular time in a particular place, and to be at a moment where we have horrific events and a great deal of trauma and tragedy, but yet it will reveal itself to be one of the most heroic moments in military history. It all started on this ship. This is the Dorchester. And the Dorchester was a private ship, and it only held 400 people, but they converted it to a military ship, and it now holds 900. So here's what it is when these people are boarding this ship, this is what touches me, is that they're going to serve their country, to serve their God, to liberate the oppressed, and to give their lives. And it just amazes me when men and women go off to battle knowing that in advance. And that's what makes this story so powerful, is you have to understand at this time, the country was going through a number of really deep divisions in both religion and culture. And here they were all together, regardless of race and national origin, boarding this ship together to serve their country. The Dorchester left port, and it was accompanied by 3 Coast Guard cutters. And what happened at that point in time is before they left, the captain of the Dorchester knew that there was going to be an issue because there were submarines in the area and they had been reported. And so the ship was put on high alert, and sure enough, the worst came to happen. And in the dark of night, in an icy sea, and I mean, it's the middle of winter off the coast of Newfoundland, and you can imagine a torpedo hitting, and it was hit, and right below the waterline, and disabled all the electrical systems. And according to eyewitnesses at the camp, there was absolute pandemonium. There were men screaming and crying, coming to the top of the ship just in their night clothes. They didn't have life preservers on. It was, can you imagine, I mean, in the middle of the night, in the middle of the Atlantic with that kind of weather outside. So I want to read to you some of the actual survivor accounts. If I quote, "On February 3rd, 1943, at 1 in the morning, we heard this tremendous explosion. We were hit by a torpedo. The torpedo went into the right side of the ship, and everything went black, and all lights disappeared. Everybody was running around like lunatics. It was every man for himself. People were frantic. People forgot their life preservers. People didn't have clothes on. Some of them were crying. They were caught completely surprised, and they didn't know what to do. The ship was sinking quickly, and it would only be 20 minutes from the time the torpedo hit to the time the Dorchester was at the bottom of the sea." Quote from one of the survivors, his name is Grady Clark, and he says, "As I swam away from the ship, I looked back, and the flares had lighted everything. The bow came up high, and she began to slide under. The last thing I saw were the 4 chaplains up there praying for the safety of the men." Now, the chaplains had made their way to the top deck and doing everything they could to give soldiers some peace and comfort. Another survivor remembers, "The 4 chaplains took off their own life preservers and gave them to men, 4 strange soldiers who didn't have life preservers on, and they gave it to them so that they could possibly survive this ordeal," unquote. The 4 chaplains walked among the wounded without regard to color, race, or creed, and they spoke words of hope to them, trying to calm the fear that obviously was raging inside of every one of these people. Again, according to Grady Clark, they had done everything they could. "I did not see them again. They themselves did not have a chance without their life jackets." The ship was about to go down, but the chaplains were about to lift their men to new heights, and they were about to transform this sea of tragedy and trauma into a sea of glory. And if I could quote one unknown named survivor, "That's when I saw these 4 men standing arm in arm on the top of the boat. And the chaplains locked arms and they prayed together. They linked arms and then they joined in singing hymns, each of them in a different language. One was in Latin, one was in Hebrew, one was in English, and they were humming these songs while the ship went down. To see them in this disheveled moment and how with disaster all around them, yet in their inner calm, these 4 men, as they ministered to the people around them. And as one survivor said, "It is close to heaven as I ever hope to be." And at this time, I'd like to ask the clergy if you would be so kind, if you have it on your heart to say something, if you would be so kind.
First thing I want to say is I don't know if I'm made of that kind of stuff. Okay? Just being very candid with you. Don't know if I could stand on the deck of a ship as it's going down, singing songs of faith and hope. I'd like to think I could, but in reality, I'm not sure. I also want you to know that I am deeply proud to be the son of a man that spent 4 years in the European theater, offering his life, returning with a Purple Heart, and offering his life in so many ways. I think the thing that stuns me as I think about my father is that he spent 4 years in Europe, completely away from his family, completely away from his mother and father and his brother. And again, I'm not sure I'm made of that kind of stuff as well. I'm also very proud to be the father of a young man that just stepped down from his military service. He was a captain in the United States Army and served 4 tours of duty, offering his life and giving himself in so many ways with his military service. And then finally, a very unique aspect of my life, my personal life, is the fact that I'm married to a woman who comes out of the Jewish ethnicity. And she's a remarkable woman, which I am thrilled to have been married to for 38 years. And her mother, who is with us, living with us right now, her mother got out of Germany in 1939. I think we all know what was going on. Her father had a unique friend that was very high up in the Nazi party and told him that you need to get out of Germany right now. And within 2 days, he was out of Germany with his family, coming to the United States. Her mother, at that point, tried to maintain contact with family back in Germany, and I'm so sad to say that on her mother and her father's side, on her grandmother's side, my wife's grandmother's side, our entire family was lost in the Holocaust. Deeply painful, all of that coming out of World War II. What a privilege for me to be here today.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm honored to be with you today in service, and service is a great part of my life. As you well know, I was not in the military, but I was 30 years as captain with the North Carolina State Highway Patrol. And service is something that I do. It is a part of me. I was honored when I was in Salisbury in 2000 to be the recipient of the FOUR Chaplain. And to be honored of such sacrifice, and someone thought that I exemplified that, was very moving to me. And it was something that I thought dear that I keep it on my wall when you come to my office. But I thank you for those men to understand that greater love than no man, that he would give up his life for a friend. And so these 4 men, not knowing each other, was brought together by faith. God had them at the right place at the right time to be a blessing to somebody else. And that it is our service, and that's why you are here today, because of your service, being able to serve this great country. And I commend you, and I thank you, and I'm honored that you thought of me to be a part of that and share this great occasion 77 years ago. My wife's father, Reverend George Latham, retired from military over 30-some years, Lieutenant Colonel. He served in the Korean War and World War II. And he was honored, he was a man of honor in passing his pins, gold pins. He passed them over to me being on the patrol, and I wear those for 30 years in my uniform when I retired. So I understand what service is, and I commend all of you for the service that you render for this great country.
Thank you.
Well, I think one of the first things I like to say is just what an honor it is to sit with these 3 gentlemen here. And as I thought of the words of, could I do that? I had that in my heart a lot when I was in the military. I spent 6 years as an infantry officer. And I think what got me to get out and get on this path was as a captain, when we did the battlefield analysis in the course. How many can I choose to lose on the battlefield before we retreat? I was like, I don't want to lose any. And so when I think about what it took for them to do that, I put my heart in the same way. I don't know if I can do it. I don't think any of us can ever know if we can do that, because we don't know what's going to come. But I think I know what can help us be best prepared. Never ready, but best prepared to do that, which I think all 4 of those men did their whole life. Not perfectly. None of us are perfect. We're all wounded. We're all broken. We're all imperfect. But I believe what all of them did or strived to do from when they first met at Harvard for the brief moment to every encounter with the servicemen and women that they encountered, and not only them, but their families at home, was I think what they did is they just put a little love in each day. Small acts of love. Small acts of love that come forth from the heart can lead to great acts of love from the heart. And it starts in the heart, not in the action, in the heart. Small acts of love for our fellow brothers and sisters that are close to us. And so when I think about that, I think of a good friend of mine from college. How could he have done what he did? He was a 3rd generation fireman in New York City. And Jimmy Ritchie's a graduate of Belmont Happy, who I studied with, was going up the Twin Towers with family and children when others were going down. So I think my lesson, my takeaway, above all, is to prepare myself to lock my arms here with my fellow brothers here. My takeaway is, how can I just put a little love in each day, think a little less about myself, and a little more about my neighbor, and not let anybody else tell me in this world what I need to do other than the fact of just loving my neighbor. And I think if we put a little more of that in, each one of us, that's the stuff. That's the stuff that brought, in moments of real suffering, the greatest of humanity out. That's my takeaway, really, as I prepare to lock my arms with my brothers here and just ask for the capability to live each day with that level of love. One bit of love at a time, with the hope that when I'm ever asked to give a great gift of love, I'm not doing it on my own. I'm doing it with my arms locked with the people to my left and right.
Well, like the others, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to be here with you this afternoon. It is indeed a great pleasure. It's wonderful that you have chosen to remember these heroic individuals. It's not, we like to think of ourselves perhaps as, or at least potentially heroic. At least we like to think of ourselves as being decent, kind, and loving. We like to think that if we were confronted with a difficult, not even difficult, but extremely difficult occasion, we would rise to that moment. Of course, whether we would or not, I can't say if I would or not. I've never been confronted with a situation in which I felt that my life or the life of and members of my family were endangered. But I do like to hope that I might rise to whatever I'm called to do. I sit here, was thinking suddenly about my parents. My dad was in combat infantry private at PFC. He was in the Philippines, so came to the Philippines after the major battles were over, and then he spent 6 or 7 months as in the occupying army in in Japan. Dad was drafted when he was 35 years old, which was kind of old. He already had 2 kids, which was a little surprising that he was. In fact, my sister, the third, was born while he was on a troop train heading to San Diego. But I don't always think of him. I'm sitting here thinking of my mother, who was at home with 3 little kids in Scranton, Pennsylvania, trying to scrape by on Dad's, whatever it was, $60 a month or something like that. She was heroic too. She certainly was, like millions and millions of other women, of course. And I would like to mention one other person, and that is my cousin. His name was Stuart Pollock. I was only 4 years old. I may have met him. I don't know. I couldn't possibly remember. But he was killed 75 years ago at the Battle of the Bulge. He was a newly minted second lieutenant, and you know how long a second lieutenant would last in a situation like that. My aunt never got over it, but I often think of him when I'm involved in occasions like this. We have an expression among our people. Zecher tzadikim livracha. May the memory of the righteous ones be for an eternal and everlasting blessing. Amen.
Would you pray for us? Would you pray for us, please? Stand and lock arms.
Eternal and gracious God, you have filled us with hope this day for the life that we know and for the sacrifices that have been made on our behalf. May we never, ever, ever forget. And may the locked arms that are here between the 4 of us represent arms of community and faith and togetherness, so that we might serve for our community in ways that you would like for us to serve in this world. United, offering our lives in the very best ways that we can. For all of this and the life of faith that we experience, we give you thanks.
I would like to think that as they were locked arms and they were singing a song, I want to sing this song, and I think it's committed with them. Hold on just a little while longer. Hold on just a little while longer. Hold on just a little while longer. Everything is gonna be alright. Pray on just a little while longer. Pray on just a little while longer. Pray on just a little while longer. Everything is gonna be alright. Sing on just a little while longer. Sing on just a little while longer. Sing on just a little while longer. Everything is gonna be alright.
Salve Regina, Mater Misericordiae, vita dulcedo, et spes nostra salve. A te clamamus, exules Filiae, a te suspiramus, gementes et plentes, in hac lacrimarum vale. Ea
fructum ventris tui, nobis post hoc exilium ostende. O clemens, O pia, O ducis Virgo Maria.
The traditional memorial prayer. Malei Rachamim, Shochen Bamrumim, Hamitzeh Menucha Nechona, Tachat Anfei HaShechina, Im Kedoshim Utahorim Kazohar Harakim Azirim, Et Nishmot Yakirehem shahachu la'olamam Ba'aharachamim yastirehem b'seiter kedafav la'olamim Vayitzror b'zrachayim et nishmatam Adonai hu nachalatam v'tanuchu b'shalom amishkavam v'nomar amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to all those who have sacrificed in your name, those who have entered eternity. O God of mercy, let them find refuge in your eternal presence in the shadow of your wings. Let their souls be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. May our God be their inheritance, and may they rest in peace. Let us say, Amen.
Amen.
Four chaplains with uncommon faith, born to serve and born to save, stood arm in arm upon that sinking ship, dying with a prayer upon their lips.
George L. Fox. Clark V. Poling. John P. Washington. Alexander D. Goode. Thank you all for coming.